Hi, my name is Louise, and I'm the narrator for this presentation written by Jade, Alice, and Hannah, speech and language therapists working with me at Talk Therapy, an independent speech and language therapy service in the West Midlands. Today, we wanted to talk about developmental language disorder, or DLD. This presentation will cover what is language, what is DLD, the key facts, signs of DLD, as in what you might see, the 6 domains, what they are, strategies to support the child, ideas for interventions, and further information. Let's get started. What is DLD? It encompasses language difficulties not due to other conditions, i.e. autism or brain injury. It is a lifelong condition which affects a person's ability to talk and/or understand language. Here are some key facts. You may have heard the term SLI or specific language impairment used, but developmental language disorder is now used in place of this term. A qualified speech and language therapist would make a diagnosis after thorough assessment. Children with DLD are at a greater risk of failing at school, struggling with mental health, and future employment. DLD affects around 2 children in every classroom. DLD has a genetic and biological basis, but there is no one single known cause. Co-occurring conditions can be ADHD, dyslexia, learning difficulties, and mental health issues. Just as a side note here, a child with a diagnosis of autism can have a dual diagnosis where they have specific difficulties with language. We would phrase this as a language disorder in association with autism rather than DLD. Let's look at some of the common signs of DLD, as in what you might see in the children that you're working with. They may have difficulties following instructions. They may struggle to recall previously learnt information, have limited vocabulary, or copy others. They may have literacy difficulties or difficulties with their attention. We may also see word-finding difficulties, finding it hard to put a sentence together, or having grammatical immaturities. They may talk less than their peers or struggle to retell past events like stories. They may avoid verbal learning tasks. We also know that there is a link to SEMH. The child may have difficulties understanding and managing their emotions. They may lack the vocabulary needed to talk to someone about how they are feeling. Let's have a look at the 6 key areas. We categorise DLD within these 6 key areas. A child with DLD will have a significant difficulty in one or more of these 6 areas. This will have been determined from thorough assessment carried out by a qualified speech and language therapist. They will also have considered the impact the difficulties are having on the child's social, emotional, and mental health, their relationships with others, and any impact on their learning. The first area is phonology, as in the speech sounds that we hear and use. The next area is grammar, which includes syntax and morphology, as in the language system with a set of rules. Then there's verbal learning and memory, as in learning, storing, and recalling information. Next we have semantics, which is the meaning of words. Word finding, the ability to recall and use a word correctly. And pragmatics, or language use, as in how we use language. How can we help a child with DLD? We can use visuals, topic word maps, mind maps, pictures or symbols, visual timetables, communication books, or symbol lanyards. It's really important to gain attention. Before talking to the child, gain their attention by using their name and ensure they are looking towards you before giving any instructions. We can reduce questions, comment more, or use questions at the child's level of understanding, give opportunities for clarification, and maybe also use shorter instructions. This will not only support memory difficulties, but also allow processing time to understand what has been said. Model, expand on the language used. Model back correct grammar and provide vocabulary alternatives, expanding on the vocabulary skills they already have. Encourage the child to ask for help. This should be encouraged. The child will initially need support in knowing how to do this to suit their communication needs. The strategies listed here are general strategies and can support all children with DLD. They should be used in conjunction with a wider variety of strategies, which are tailored to the child's strengths and needs. There are many more strategies specifically related to each of the 6 key areas of DLD. The speech and language therapist in your school can provide further information and more in-depth strategies on each topic. Children and young people with DLD will need regular review sessions from a trained speech and language therapist so that the appropriate interventions can be recommended. These may be specialist and delivered directly by the SLT, or often the SLT will train staff in school how to deliver a one-to-one or group intervention. It's important to note that each child with DLD is different and so will have different strengths and needs. Therefore, it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all approach. When considering interventions, we can map these onto those 6 key areas encompassing DLD that we discussed before. Here are some of the common interventions that are recommended, which aim to teach the child strategies for managing this lifelong condition. Learning and memory. This may include strategies for working on auditory memory, such as teaching verbal rehearsal, to say information over and over again in your head to help you remember it. Visualization of information, writing down, e.g. note-taking to help you remember. It's also important to teach strategies such as asking for help in the classroom, seeking clarification when unsure or have forgotten, and asking for repetitions. These are functional life skills which will help later on. Social language. This is a broad area. Depending on the child's needs, they may need something specific like a social story which teaches them specific social rules. Or they may need practice with conversational skills in a group. There are also programs to support understanding of social language, such as idioms, sarcasm, inference skills, and emotions. These include language for behaviour and emotions, and language for thinking. Discourse. Once children get to a good level with their sentence skills, it's important to target beyond the sentence level, where they will need to talk about events and experiences. This is known as narrative and discourse. Black Sheep Press narrative is one example of a resource which targets these skills, supporting children to include all of the information in their spoken narratives, including who, where, when, what happened, problem solving, and the ending. By including all the relevant information, children are more likely to be understood when trying to tell others about something that has happened. This is especially important for advocating for themselves and reporting incidents accurately in later life. Sentences. At the lower levels, we can work through building sentences and grammatical skills through approaches such as colourful semantics and shape coding. Words and sounds. Programs such as Word Aware support in a multiple way, as their school approach to teaching new vocabulary in a multimodal way, using visuals, actions, and talking about both the meaning and sounds in words. And also as an individual approach to developing word learning skills, e.g. learning strategies such as how to look up the meaning of a word in the dictionary, how to work out a word's meaning by breaking it down into its parts, e.g. prefixes and suffixes, and working on describing and definition skills. Receiving a diagnosis of DLD may be scary or a confusing time for the child, young person, or family, and it's important to find ways to explain DLD in a simple way. There are lots of books out there now which can explain this in a visual way, such as those we've shown you here. We recently attended a conference as a team and listened to lots of interesting presenters, including adults with DLD, talking about their experiences. They said, something clicked while having a conversation. This was the moment an adult with DLD recalls understanding what was happening or being asked of her. Some moments are more of a struggle. This really highlights how language can change across contexts, environments, people, level of engagement, tiredness, and it really made me think that we need to be checking in with each individual. The consistent message from the speakers was, we need to make sure we highlight repetition as a key supporting strategy. We also need to highlight modifying language, and we really need to focus on building self-esteem. You can find out more by looking at these websites or talking to your local speech and language therapist. Thank you for your time. We hope this helps, and we look forward to talking to you soon.